I stood outside the glass doors of the grand ballroom, clutching a gift I'd spent 2 weeks choosing. Inside, my entire family was celebrating. Champagne glasses raised, laughter echoing off the high ceilings, my brother spinning his new wife across the dance floor. The room glowed with warm lights and happiness. I could see everything through those transparent doors. My parents at their table beaming with pride. My sister in her bridesmaid dress, adjusting the train on the bride's gown. Cousins, aunts, uncles, all dressed in their finest. My family. But I wasn't inside with them. The usher, a young man in a crisp black suit, stood between me and the door with an apologetic expression. "I'm sorry, ma'am, but your name isn't on the guest list. I've checked 3 times. My hands trembled slightly as I held the gift. An expensive crystal vase I'd saved for months to afford. "There must be a mistake," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. "I'm his sister, Madeline Carter. Check again, please." He did. And the answer was the same. My name wasn't there. Through the glass, my brother caught my eye. And he smirked. That smirk told me everything. This wasn't a mistake. This wasn't an oversight or a problem with the guest list software. This was deliberate. My brother whispered something to our sister, who stood beside him adjusting her dress. She looked toward the door, saw me standing there like a beggar outside a feast, and laughed. Actually laughed. Her hand covered her mouth in a gesture that might have looked modest to anyone else, but I knew better. She was delighted by this. The usher shifted uncomfortably beside me. "Is there someone I can call for you? Maybe one of the family members inside could." "No," I interrupted, my voice hollow. "No, thank you. There's been no mistake." I looked down at the gift in my hands, at the silver wrapping paper I'd carefully folded, at the bow I'd tied myself because I wanted it to be perfect. Because despite everything, despite years of being treated like I didn't matter, I'd still hoped, still tried, still believed that maybe this time would be different. Inside, the DJ announced it was time for the father-daughter dance. My father stood, extending his hand to my sister. Not to me. Never to me. "My name is Madeline Carter. I'm 28 years old, the youngest of 3 children in what people would call a typical middle-class American family. We lived in a nice neighborhood, went on summer vacations, had Sunday dinners together. From the outside, we looked perfect. But inside our family, I was always the spare part. The afterthought. The one who didn't quite fit. My older brother, Austin, was 32. He'd always been the golden child. Athletic, charismatic, the kind of person who made friends effortlessly. My sister, Brooke, was 30. She was beautiful, popular, the girl everyone wanted to be friends with in high school. And then there was me. Not athletic like Austin. Not beautiful like Brooke. Just Madeline, the quiet one, the bookish one, the one who never quite measured up. As I stood outside that ballroom watching my family celebrate without me, I thought about all the times I'd been excluded before. All the birthdays I wasn't invited to. All the family photos I was conveniently absent from. All the times I'd been told I was too sensitive when I pointed out how I was being treated. This wedding was just the latest in a long line of rejections. But it would be the last time I let it break me. I remember being 8 years old at Austin's 10th birthday party. Mom had made a chocolate cake with blue frosting, Austin's favorite color. The entire neighborhood was there. Kids running around the backyard, parents drinking lemonade on the deck. When it was time to sing Happy Birthday, everyone gathered around the picnic table where the cake sat, candles flickering in the breeze. Austin stood on one side of the cake, Brooke on the other. I tried to squeeze in between them to be part of the moment, but Brooke pushed me back. "There's not enough room," she said. "Stand behind us." So I did. I stood behind them while everyone sang, while they blew out the candles together. Brooke helping Austin because that's what siblings do, apparently. When Mom took pictures, she captured Austin and Brooke perfectly. Their faces lit up with joy, their cheeks puffed out as they blew. I was a blur in the background, barely visible, out of focus. That photo hung in our hallway for years. A perfect moment of sibling love. Except I wasn't really in it. That was the first time I realized I was different. That I didn't belong in the same way they belonged together. The pattern continued through childhood. Austin and Brooke had inside jokes I wasn't part of. They'd whisper to each other during family dinners, then laugh at something I didn't understand. They'd make plans, going to the movies, heading to the mall, meeting up with friends, and leave without mentioning it to me. When I asked if I could come along, they'd exchange glances. "We're doing big kid stuff," Brooke would say, even though I was only 2 years younger than her. "You wouldn't like it." But the worst part wasn't the exclusion itself. It was how everyone else acted like it was normal. When I complained to Mom that Austin and Brooke never included me, she'd pat my head and say, "They're just close in age, honey. You'll find your own friends." When I cried because I wasn't invited to Brooke's sleepover party, where every other girl in her class was invited, Dad said, "Well, you are a bit younger. Maybe next year." There was always an excuse. Always a reason why it was okay for them to leave me out. And eventually I stopped asking why. I just accepted that this was how things were. My parents weren't cruel people. They loved me in their way. But they loved Austin and Brooke more, and they were never good at hiding it. Austin was Dad's mini-me. They bonded over sports, watched games together, played catch in the backyard for hours. Brooke was Mom's princess. They went shopping together, got their nails done, shared clothes and makeup tips. And me? I was just there. When Austin made the varsity football team, Dad took the whole family out to celebrate. When Brooke won homecoming queen, Mom threw her a surprise party. When I got a full scholarship to a good university, something neither of my siblings had managed, my parents said, "That's nice, dear," and moved on to talking about Austin's new girlfriend. I tried to tell myself it didn't matter, that I didn't need their approval or their attention, but it did matter. It mattered every single time they chose my siblings over me. Every time they made excuses for behavior they'd never tolerate from anyone else. Every time they acted like my feelings were an inconvenience. By the time I graduated college, I'd learned to keep my expectations low. I'd learned not to hope for too much from my family. But I hadn't yet learned to stop trying altogether. The first wedding was Brooke's 4 years ago. She got engaged to a guy named Patrick, someone she dated for barely a year. The engagement was a big production. He proposed at a fancy restaurant with a flash mob and everything. Mom cried. Dad recorded the whole thing. Austin gave Patrick a bear hug and welcomed him to the family. I found out about it 3 days later, when Brooke posted about it on social media. When I called to congratulate her, she sounded annoyed that I'd interrupted her day. "Oh yeah, thanks," she said. "We're really busy with wedding planning, so I'll talk to you later." I waited for the invitation. Waited for months. I helped Mom pick out her mother-of-the-bride dress. I listened to Austin complain about his best man speech. I heard every detail of the wedding planning through family dinners and phone calls. But I never received an invitation. A week before the wedding I finally asked Mom about it. "Oh honey," she said, looking uncomfortable. "Brooke and Patrick wanted to keep it small. Just close family and friends." "I'm her sister," I said. Mom patted my hand. "I know, but you understand how expensive weddings are. They had to make some tough choices." The wedding had 200 guests. I saw the photos on Facebook. 200 people, but not me. After Brooke's wedding, I tried to pretend it didn't hurt. I told myself that maybe she really had needed to limit the guest list, that it wasn't personal. But then my cousin asked me at Thanksgiving, "How was Brooke's wedding?" I loved the decorations. I stared at her, confused. I wasn't there. Her face went pale. "Oh, I'm sorry. I just assumed. I mean, everyone else was asking about you. Where you were. Brooke kept saying you'd chosen not to come because you don't really like family events." That's when I understood. It wasn't just that I hadn't been invited. It was that Brooke had lied about it. She told people I'd been invited and had declined. That I was the problem, not her. That I was antisocial, difficult, someone who didn't value family. I confronted her privately after dinner. "Why would you tell people that?" She shrugged, barely looking up from her phone. "What did you want me to say? That I didn't invite my own sister? That would have made me look bad." "So instead you made me look bad," I said. "Oh please. Don't be so dramatic. You're always so dramatic about everything." That word, dramatic. It would become their favorite weapon against me. I went to my parents. Surely they would understand. Surely they would see how wrong this was. But when I explained what had happened, they just looked uncomfortable. "Maddie, we don't want to take sides," Dad said. "It was Brooke's wedding. She got to decide who to invite." "But she lied about me," I protested. "She told everyone I chose not to come." She made me look like the bad guy. Mom sighed like I was being difficult. Honey, why are you making such a big deal about this? The wedding is over. Let it go. She's your sister, Dad added. We didn't want drama on her big day. You understand that, right? Family is more important than hurt feelings. I stood there stunned. They weren't going to defend me. They weren't going to acknowledge that what Brooke had done was wrong. They were choosing her over me just like they always had. So it's okay for her to exclude me and lie about it? I asked quietly. As long as there's no drama? They didn't answer. They didn't have to. Their silence told me everything I needed to know. I left their house that night and cried for hours. Not just because of the wedding but because I finally understood. My parents weren't neutral. They'd chosen sides years ago and I wasn't on their side. Which brought me back to this moment. Standing outside Austin's wedding reception, gift in hand, watching my family celebrate without me. The smirk on Austin's face. The laugh from Brooke. The knowledge that once again, I'd been deliberately excluded. And once again they probably told everyone some lie about why I wasn't there. That I was too busy. That I didn't care about family. That I was too dramatic. Something inside me shifted. Not broke, that had happened long ago. This was different. This was the moment when something hardened. When I stopped hoping they'd change and started planning something else entirely. I looked at the gift in my hands one more time. Then I walked to the nearest trash can and dropped it in. The sound of the crystal vase shattering inside the bag was satisfying. I turned away from the ballroom, away from the family that had never really been mine, and walked to my car. My hands weren't shaking anymore. My eyes were dry. And in my head a single word echoed. Never again. Never again would I beg for their love. Never again would I accept their excuses. Never again would I let them make me feel small. I drove home in silence. No music, no podcasts, just the sound of my own breathing and the hum of the engine. My apartment was quiet when I walked in. I set my purse on the counter, kicked off my heels, and stood in the middle of my living room. For the first time in my life I wasn't crying. I wasn't calling a friend to vent. I wasn't texting my parents to ask why they let this happen again. I was just calm, resolved. I'd spent 28 years trying to earn a place in my family, trying to be good enough, interesting enough, valuable enough to matter to them. But they'd shown me over and over that nothing I did would ever be enough. So I was done trying. I made a decision in that moment, standing alone in my apartment. I wouldn't cut them off completely, that would give them ammunition, let them paint me as the difficult one, the dramatic one. Instead, I would do something much more effective. I would show them exactly what they'd been doing to me. I would teach them how it feels to be excluded, to be forgotten, to be treated like you don't matter. And I would do it in a way they couldn't argue with, couldn't dismiss, couldn't explain away. I smiled. Not a happy smile, but a determined one. They wanted to exclude me? Fine. Two could play that game. My plan started forming immediately. It would take time, months, maybe longer. But that was fine. This wasn't about quick revenge. This was about making a point that would stick. The first step was simple: stop trying. Stop reaching out, stop showing up uninvited, stop putting in effort where it wasn't valued. 4 years, I'd been the one initiating contact, calling my parents weekly, sending birthday cards to Austin and Brooke, showing up to family dinners even when I knew I'd be ignored. I'd been the one trying to maintain relationships that were completely one-sided. So I stopped. I didn't make a big announcement about it. I just quietly withdrew. When my parents called, I kept conversations brief and pleasant, but didn't volunteer information about my life. When Austin or Brooke posted on social media, I stopped liking or commenting. When family dinners were planned, I politely declined, citing work commitments. First, nobody noticed. Or if they did, they didn't care. For the first few weeks, my phone was silent. No one reached out to ask why I wasn't engaging as much. No one seemed to miss me. And that was fine. It proved what I'd always suspected. They didn't actually want me around. They just wanted me to keep showing up so they could feel like good people who included their sister/daughter and things. While I pulled back from family, I poured energy into building my own life. The life I'd been neglecting while I chased their approval. I'd graduated college 4 years ago with a degree in marketing, and had been working at a mid-sized firm ever since. I was good at my job, really good, but I'd been holding back, playing it safe, not taking risks because I was so emotionally exhausted from family drama. Now, with all that energy freed up, I threw myself into my career. I started taking on bigger projects, staying late to perfect presentations, volunteering for accounts other people didn't want. Within 3 months, I'd led a campaign that brought in a major client. My boss noticed. 6 months after Austin's wedding, I was promoted to senior marketing manager with a significant raise. I also started building real friendships. I'd always had friends, but I'd kept them at arm's length, afraid to get too close, afraid they'd hurt me like my family did. Now I let people in. I met Olivia at a networking event. She worked in graphic design and had a wicked sense of humor. We bonded over terrible office coffee and became inseparable. Through Olivia, I met her friend circle, Tessa, Marcus, and Jade. They became my chosen family. About 8 months after Austin's wedding, I ran into a distant cousin at the grocery store. She was one of the relatives who'd been at both Brooks and Austin's weddings, someone I saw maybe once a year at family gatherings. "Maddie," she said, surprised. "I haven't seen you in forever. How are you?" We chatted for a few minutes. Then she said something that stopped me cold. "Your mom mentioned you don't really like family stuff. That's why we never see you anymore." There it was again. The narrative they were spinning. I wasn't being excluded. I was choosing to exclude myself. I was the antisocial one, the difficult daughter who didn't value family. It was the same lie they told after Brooke's wedding, and now it had become accepted truth among extended family. I smiled at my cousin. "That's not quite accurate," I said calmly. "But if that's what they're saying, I suppose that's the story they need to tell." My cousin looked confused, but I changed the subject before she could ask questions. Later at home, I realized something important. My family had been crafting a narrative about me for years, painting me as the problem, the outsider, the one who didn't fit. And I'd been so focused on trying to change their minds that I'd never thought to create my own narrative. That was about to change. 10 months after Austin's wedding, I bought a house. Not a huge house, but a beautiful 3-bedroom Craftsman in a neighborhood I loved. I'd been saving aggressively since my promotion, and with my raise I could finally afford it. Closing on the house felt like the first purely joyful moment I'd had in years. This was mine. Something I'd achieved without my family's help or approval. Something that proved I was doing just fine without them. I decided to throw a housewarming party. Not a big production, just an intimate gathering of people who actually cared about me. I invited Olivia, Tessa, Marcus, and Jade. I invited colleagues from work who'd become friends. I invited my mentor from college who I'd reconnected with recently. I invited neighbors I'd met in my first week in the house. It was the first party I'd ever thrown where I didn't feel obligated to invite people who made me feel small. Where I didn't have to brace myself for criticism or backhanded compliments. Where I could just be myself and celebrate with people who genuinely liked me. The party was perfect. My house filled with laughter and warmth. Olivia brought champagne. Marcus made a toast about new beginnings. Tessa presented me with a custom welcome mat that said, "No drama allowed." We ate, we drank, we played silly party games. And I felt happy. Genuinely, completely happy. Near the end of the party, I was in the kitchen refilling drinks when Olivia found me. She'd been my closest friend for the past several months and knew bits and pieces of my family story. Enough to understand why I was beaming with joy at being surrounded by people who chose to be there. "This is amazing," she said, gesturing to the living room where everyone was chatting. "You should do more of this. Throw a big event. Really celebrate yourself." I laughed. "Like what?" "I don't know. You got a promotion, you bought a house, you're killing it at life. Most people would throw a huge party. Invite everyone." She paused, giving me a knowing look. Well, maybe not everyone. Something clicked in my mind. A big event. A celebration of my success. The kind of milestone gathering my family would expect to be invited to. The kind of thing they'd be embarrassed to miss. I looked at Olivia and smiled slowly. "That's actually a really good idea." She raised her eyebrow. "Why do I feel like I just helped you plan something devious?" "Not devious," I corrected. "Just educational." Later, after everyone had left and I was cleaning up, the idea solidified in my mind. I would throw a celebration. Something big enough that my family would hear about it. Something important enough that they'd assume they were invited. And I would exclude them. Exactly like they'd excluded me. Not to be petty, but to teach them a lesson they clearly hadn't learned yet. Over the next few weeks I started laying groundwork. Casually, subtly, I began mentioning to extended family that I was planning something. An aunt I ran into at the post office. "Oh, I bought a house. I'm planning a celebration soon. I'll send details." A cousin who called about an unrelated matter. "Things are going great. I got promoted, bought a house. Planning a big party to mark the milestone. I didn't invite anyone yet. I just planted seeds. Let word spread. Made sure the family grapevine, which had always been active in our family, carried the news. I knew how information flowed in our extended family. Someone would mention it to my parents. My parents would mention it to Austin and Brooke. Soon enough, everyone would know I was planning something, and they'd all be waiting for their invitations. The key was making it sound significant. Not just a casual housewarming, but a real celebration. A milestone event. The kind of thing that would be weird not to invite family to. I also started posting more on social media. Something I'd rarely done before. Photos of my new house, my office with my new title on the door. Dinners out with my friend group. I crafted an image of someone thriving, successful, surrounded by people who valued her. It wasn't fake. I was thriving, but I made sure it was visible. 2 months later I sent out invitations. Actual, physical invitations. The kind printed on heavy cardstock with elegant lettering. The kind that made an event feel important and official. Madeline Carter requests the pleasure of your company at a celebration of new beginnings. Join us as we celebrate professional achievement and new adventures. Cocktail attire. I sent them to cousins, aunts, uncles, family, friends. I sent them to colleagues, mentors, and my entire friend group. I sent them to neighbors and people from my gym. I sent them to everyone except Austin, Brooke, and my parents. The RSVPs started coming in immediately. Can't wait. Congratulations on everything. We're so proud of you. Within a week I had 50 confirmed guests. My phone started buzzing with text messages from relatives I hadn't heard from in months, all excited about the party. And then the confused messages started. A cousin texted. "Got the invitation. Looks amazing. Are Austin and Brooke coming?" An uncle called. "Maddie, I got your invitation. Your parents mentioned they hadn't received theirs yet. Should I forward them the details?" I kept my responses simple and consistent. "Oh, I assumed they'd be busy with their own plans. They've always been so busy." The questions kept coming. The confusion growing. And somewhere in the background, I knew Austin, Brooke, and my parents were hearing about this party and realizing they weren't invited. 3 weeks before the party, my phone rang. It was Brooke. I let it go to voicemail. She called again 10 minutes later. And again that evening. Finally I answered. "Hey Brooke." "Maddie." Her voice was strained, trying to sound casual but failing. "I've been trying to reach you. How are you?" "I'm great," I said pleasantly. "Really busy with work and getting ready for this party. How are you?" Silence. Then, "Yeah, about that party. I've been hearing about it from everyone. Sounds like it's going to be quite the event." "I hope so," I said. "I'm excited." More silence. I could practically hear her trying to figure out how to ask. Finally. "So, I haven't gotten my invitation yet. I'm assuming it got lost in the mail." "Oh no," I said, my voice perfectly calm. "It didn't get lost. I didn't send you one." I heard her sharp intake of breath. "What?" "I didn't invite you," I repeated. "Or Austin or Mom and Dad. I assumed you wouldn't want to come. You've always been so busy with each other and your own events. I figured you wouldn't be interested in mine." "That's ridiculous," Brooke sputtered. "You can't have a family event and not invite your family." The irony was so thick I almost laughed. "Can't I? You've done it twice now. I thought that's just how our family operates." Brooke's tone shifted from confused to angry. "This is so childish, Maddie. We're your family. Of course we should be there. Like I should have been at your wedding?" I asked. "Or Austin's." "That was different," she protested. "We had limited space and you had 200 guests at your wedding, Brooke. And you told everyone I chose not to come. You lied about me." Silence on the other end. "Austin did the same thing," I continued, my voice still calm. Excluded me and then made me look like the bad guy for not being there. So now I'm just giving you what you've been giving me for years. The experience of being left out. This is because you're being dramatic, Brooke said, her voice sharp. This is exactly why we don't always include you. You hold grudges and… I'm not being dramatic, I interrupted. I'm being clear. For years, you and Austin have excluded me from important moments. You've lied about me to family. You've made me feel like I don't matter. And when I tried to talk to you about it, you called me dramatic. So I'm done talking. I paused, then added, consider this a learning experience. Sometimes the best way to understand how something feels is to experience it yourself. I hung up before she could respond. My parents called that same evening. I'd been expecting it. Brooke had clearly run straight to them after our conversation. Madeline, Dad's voice was stern. We need to talk about this party situation. What about it? I asked innocently. Brooke says you're deliberately excluding us from some event you're planning. That's correct, I confirmed. I'm throwing a party to celebrate my promotion and new house. I've invited friends, colleagues, and extended family. But not you, Mom, Austin, or Brooke. That's completely inappropriate, Mom said. She'd been on speakerphone. We're your parents. And Brooke and Austin are my siblings, I said. But that didn't stop them from excluding me from their weddings. Both times. That's different, Dad said. Those were their special days. They got to decide who they wanted there. Exactly, I agreed. And this is my special day. And I get to decide who I want there. I've decided I don't want people who've spent years making me feel unwelcome, and then lying about it. You're punishing us for something we didn't even do. Mom protested. You're still hung up on those weddings? That's ancient history. It's not ancient history to me, I said quietly. It's a pattern. A pattern of being excluded, dismissed, and blamed for being hurt about it. I'm done with that pattern. There was a long pause. Then Mom's voice, softer now. What do you want from us? Maddie. Nothing, I said and meant it. I don't want anything anymore. I just want you to understand how it feels. Over the next 2 weeks, the calls and texts kept coming. Austin tried a different approach. Casual indifference mixed with guilt tripping. I heard you're having some party. Pretty petty to exclude family, but whatever. It's your life. An aunt called to say my parents seemed upset and maybe I should reconsider. Family is important, Maddie. Is a party really worth causing all this drama? Each time I stayed calm and consistent. I'm not causing drama. I'm hosting an event and inviting people who've consistently shown they value me. That's all. The week before the party, Brooke tried one more time. She showed up at my house unannounced. I saw her through the peephole and considered not answering. But I opened the door. Brooke, can I come in? She asked. I stepped aside, letting her enter. She looked around my house, the house she'd never seen, never asked about, never congratulated me on buying. This is nice, she said awkwardly. Thanks. We stood in uncomfortable silence. Finally, she spoke. Look, I know things between us haven't been perfect, but excluding us from this party, that's going too far. Is it? I asked. Because from where I stand, I'm just doing what you've done to me for years. I've apologized for the wedding thing, she protested. Except she hadn't. Not once. Not ever. No, you haven't, I said. You've made excuses. You've told me I'm being dramatic. But you've never once actually apologized. Brooke's face flushed. Fine. I'm sorry. There. Can we move past this now? It was the emptiest apology I'd ever heard. Sorry just to get what she wanted, not because she actually felt remorse. No, I said simply. I appreciate you coming by, but my decision stands. The party is tomorrow night, and you're not invited. Neither are Austin or Mom and Dad. So that's it. Her voice rose. You're just going to cut us out? I'm not cutting anyone out, I corrected. I'm hosting one event that you're not invited to. One. The same thing you and Austin have done to me multiple times. If one exclusion feels this terrible to you, imagine how it felt to me. Repeatedly. Brooke stared at me like she was seeing me for the first time. When did you become so cold? I'm not cold, I said quietly. I'm just done being hurt. There's a difference. She left without another word. That evening I got a text from my mother. "We love you, but what you're doing is cruel. We raised you better than this." I didn't respond. I turned off my phone, poured myself a glass of wine, and sat in my beautiful house that I'd bought with my own money, celebrating my success that I'd earned through my own hard work. I felt no guilt, only clarity. The night of the party arrived. I'd hired caterers, a bartender, and even a photographer. My house looked incredible, lights strung in the backyard, flowers everywhere, music floating through the rooms. Guests started arriving at 7. The house filled quickly with laughter and conversation. Colleagues told stories about the campaign that had earned my promotion. Olivia gave a toast about friendship and new beginnings. Cousins I'd always liked but rarely saw came up to congratulate me on the house. "This is amazing," Tessa said, squeezing my hand. "You deserve all of this." Around 8:30, I heard a commotion at the front door. I walked over to find Austin and Brooke standing on my porch, dressed formally, clearly assuming they could just show up. My friend Marcus, who'd volunteered to help manage arrivals, stood between them and the door. "I'm sorry," he was saying politely but firmly, "but your names aren't on the guest list." Austin's face was red. "This is ridiculous. We're her siblings." "I understand," Marcus said calmly, "but the host was very clear about the guest list. I can't let anyone in whose name isn't on it." I stepped forward so they could see me through the doorway. We locked eyes, me inside, surrounded by people who chose to be there, them outside, excluded and confused. The exact reversal of that moment at Austin's wedding reception. Brooke looked angry. Austin looked shocked. And I felt nothing but peace. I didn't gloat. I didn't say anything cruel. I just looked at them for a long moment, then turned away and rejoined my party. Behind me, I heard Marcus politely but firmly closing the door. Inside, someone had turned up the music. People were dancing in my living room, laughing in my kitchen, spilling out into the backyard where lights twinkled in the trees. My mentor from college found me and gave me a hug. "I'm so proud of you," she said. "Look at everything you've built." She was right. I had built something. Not just a career or a house, but a life. A life filled with people who valued me, who chose me, who wanted me around. A life where I didn't have to beg for scraps of affection or acceptance. For years, I believed that family was the most important thing. That I needed to keep trying, keep hoping, keep putting in effort even when I got nothing back. But now I understood something different. Family isn't just about blood. It's about choosing each other, showing up for each other, treating each other with respect and love. And my siblings, my parents, they'd never really chosen me. They'd tolerated me at best, excluded me at worst. They'd wanted me to keep playing the role of the forgotten child, the dramatic one, the outsider who kept trying to get in. But I didn't need to get in anymore. I already had what I needed. As I looked around at the people celebrating with me, laughing, dancing, genuinely happy to be there, I realized I'd spent years looking for family in the wrong place. Because these people, they were my real family. And they had been all along. I just had to stop looking backward and start seeing what was right in front of me. So no, I didn't gloat when Austin and Brooke showed up and found themselves locked out. I didn't need to. The life I'd built without them was statement enough.